The high school principal. I know you students know who I am, but that's for the parents who are here to join us today. Spring at any high school in the state is a very exciting time for young adults. The end of the school year is in sight. Summer, the beach, outdoor movies, sleeping in until noon are just around the corner. But the two largest events that young adults are looking forward to are graduation and prom. Graduation is every senior's dream and goal, the passing to adulthood. Prom, what every young adult is looking forward to. This is a time to dress up, show the world that you are truly young adults. As your high school principal, and representing your parents and the adults of the community of South St. Paul, prom does not hold the same joy for us that it does you. Yes, we enjoy seeing you all dressed up, acting mature, behaving yourself, and love to see smiling faces that make us extremely happy. But we are all nervous. Prom night is one of the deadliest nights of the year for high school students. Will our students and loved ones make the right choices? Will they treat their dates and fellow students with respect and not violate their rights? Will they stay away from alcohol and drugs? These are the questions that haunt us and haunt me as we look at prom. We love you. We trust you. Please make the right choices. I would now like to introduce Captain Joe Olson. Captain Olson is an 18-year veteran with the South St. Paul Fire Department. He will be narrating the mock crash. Captain Olson.
Thank you, Principal Manning, and also I might add a South St. Paul graduate. And I remember how exciting this time of year was, and I remember some of the things I did, and I won't share those with you right now, but I can remember how exciting parties were, commencement activities, and prom. I also know that it's a time of year where, as Principal Manning has already indicated, that decisions are made. Decisions made that can affect you the rest of your life, loved ones and families and extended people for years and years to come. Decisions that are made that can seriously affect you. So right now we're going to slip ahead a few weeks, and it's prom night in South St. Paul. And we're going to listen into a couple of vehicles that are meandering around South St. Paul and hear what's going on.
Annie, you're looking pretty sexy tonight.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, you're looking pretty good. So,
Thanks.
where are we on this Grand March?
We're like 106,
Hey, Joey,
107.
can you grab me a beer
Andy,
out
what
of
number
that
are you
cooler?
guys? We're right after you.
One
Okay.
sec. So, but where are we gonna go out to eat?
So what's everyone gonna have to eat at Applebee's?
I'm not that hungry today.
Food.
You're not hungry, Jaden?
Yes.
When are you hungry?
Dessert?
That's about right. That sounds like you.
The Lexington. Did you make reservations? No,
That
I
sounds
forgot.
pretty good.
You
So
think I
what
can
kind
make
of
them
beer
right
you
now?
want,
Give me
No.
a Busch Light.
Thanks.
Alright.
Will you give me another shot, Sandy?
Sure. Where's the cooler, guys?
Oh, hold on one sec. Here it is.
Jack, what are you doing tonight?
I'm thinking about going to a movie later.
What are you gonna go to see?
Blades of Glory.
Who's going?
A lot of people.
Think you're gonna drive tonight?
I don't know. Can I borrow the car?
We'll talk about it later.
No, wait. What do you want?
Sandy, did you hear about
Busch
Sarah's
Light.
dress?
Okay.
No.
And
Oh
what
my
kind of
God.
shot?
It was
There you go.
all, I heard it was
Yank
all
bomb.
slutty and
Okay.
cut low and everything.
I think that's gonna be pretty
Think
good.
she's gonna
but,
get in there?
I
hey,
don't know.
Ed, you wanna help me open this thing? How do I
Dude.
open this thing?
Ed, keep your eyes on the road.
Watch out!
Reed, leave Jaden alone.
Didn't touch him.
Jaden,
Yes, you did.
Jaden, get back in your seat.
I am back in my seat.
Put your seatbelt on
Stop hugging
now.
him.
Let's go. Oh,
Watch
that
out.
guy's
Look
pulling
out for
out.
that car.
He's
Watch
pulling
out.
out.
And 44 report of a multi-car accident with injuries. 9th Avenue North, 3rd Street North.
You alright?
2140.
Doing alright? Doing alright? You guys alright?
Passerby reporting multiple vehicles involved. Driver appears to be intoxicated. Other occupants severely injured. Starting your rescue and ambulance.
Jay. Oh my God. Jay. Oh my God. Jay. You alright? You alright? Yeah. Alright. I'm sorry I didn't try. I was, oh my God. I just, what are you doing? Man, you alright? Hey! Hey man, it was an accident. You alright? Oh shit. You alright? Oh my God. You alright? He had a pulse, but I don't know. Guy, Jack, what's going on? You alright? Are you bleeding anywhere? Hey. Marty, go! Yeah. Okay.
As the South St. Paul police arrive,
I have a few drinks.
they will be assessing the scene and securing it, relaying information to incoming emergency units, and assisting the victims as necessary.
You alright? Alright. He's unconscious? Okay. Alright.
The police will also deal with anyone that is walking and wounded
He's alright.
and
He's
give
got a
special
pulse. He's
attention
alright.
to our obviously drunk
alright.
driver.
Okay, I'm gonna deal with him, okay? Here's what I'm gonna have you do. I'm gonna have you stand back here for a minute. Okay, they're on the way. I'm gonna have you stand back and they'll get to you in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna have you wait back by my squad, okay?
Alright, just wait. You alright?
That's okay, they'll be here in a minute.
Okay.
I'm just gonna have you lean against the squad here and they should be here any second.
Alright. Help my boy.
You okay? Okay? We've got one fatality, advised fire, rescue.
The officer has now advised the oncoming units that he's got an unresponsive
Jay?
patient.
Jay? Jay?
Okay.
His pulse is getting weak.
Okay,
His
we've got
pul-
fire on the way. I'm just
Okay,
gonna have you wait back
his
here,
pulse
sir.
is getting weak.
I'm just gonna have you wait back here.
Where's the ambulance?
I'm gonna have you also stand back here, okay? Which car are you from? That one there? Okay. I'll have some.
Where's the driver?
I've got him in my car. Hang on, okay?
Where's the ambulance? What? Where's the ambulance? Where's the ambulance?
Ambulance is coming. Are you all right? Where you hurt at?
My leg, and I can't get my feet.
Sir? Okay.
But I
You
want
okay?
my son help.
Oh, my neck! You guys okay?
Yeah, my legs hurt.
Okay. You guys breathing?
Help.
Okay, we've got some medical service on the way, personnel on the way, okay? They'll be with us in a minute. We're gonna deal with some other who have some more serious injuries, okay?
Yeah, help
So
my,
just
put my son on the ground.
okay, they're on the way. They'll be dealing with you guys in a second, okay?
Yeah.
So just relax, okay?
We're trying.
On arrival, the fire department will again evaluate the scene and triage the victims. This is a process of determining who has life-threatening injuries and needs immediate attention.
Stay still. Don't move around.
You guys alright?
Yeah, we're okay.
Jack,
Yeah,
you alright?
yeah.
Reed, just be still. Be still. Okay, Jack, are you bleeding?
Yeah. Just
All right.
my arm.
They'll be here in a second.
Help Jaden.
Can you help my son here?
We've got two fatalities. She's dead. He's dead.
What?
We've got
No, he's not dead. No, somebody's gotta help him.
and we've got one unconscious.
Help him.
Are you happy? You having fun? Good, I'm sorry.
Help him. Help check him.
They pulled out.
Yeah.
Back over here.
Yeah,
Back by the squad car.
Yeah, my leg hurts, so I can't.
we're heading south.
I can't get out of the car. How's everybody in the back? They have a sore leg, and my other son's neck hurts.
Okay,
All right.
help my son and my wife.
They have now assessed all the victims, have a general idea of the condition, and are assisting patients, the walking wounded, and establishing a criteria for who's going to be treated next.
Okay.
My little boy over there laying in the ground, what's going on?
As the first fire engine arrives, it will again protect the scene from fire and prepare to extricate any trapped or pinned victims.
Go on, and then
Jaden, it's your son.
I think the bozo in the squad is.
Are you guys okay?
My legs kill.
Are you still alright though? Are you awake? Alright.
Just help my kids. Check my wife. I just banged my face.
How many kids do you have with
I got 3 boys. Yes. My youngest boy's in the
Help my
ground.
son. Help Jaden.
And they're hurt in the back.
Jaden needs help. Why are you cuffing him up? He needs to be helped. Oh, help him. Jaden, help him.
I think we're south. I think we're going down Marine.
going
and
on?
They
they pulled out.
can't get the car door open.
The specialized equipment you're about to see the fire department use is equipment that can literally remove the car from the patient. Occasionally we find patients that are so intertangled with the car and the steel that we have to remove the steel and the car from them. This is commonly referred to as the jaws of
Where's
life.
Randy? Where's Randy? Where's my husband?
Your husband, he's outside talking to the police.
How's your breathing doing, sir? You alright?
Fine.
Okay.
Guys, I'm gonna cover you up just
Help
so you
my
don't get any
son.
glass on you.
Can you find out what's going on with the sun outside the car?
Yeah, we sure will. We're taking care of him right now.
The triage process has obviously identified that we have 2 fatalities at this accident, and we will respect the dead by covering them. And
What are they doing in the car now, you know?
you're also seeing an effort used by firefighters to protect the victims inside the car in using this equipment. They will put sheets or towels over them so that flying glass and metal can't provide any additional injuries.
Randy! Help Jaden!
The sounds you hear can be just terrifying to a patient inside a car when they're hearing metal tear and glass break.
Give me some.
Very, very difficult to keep a patient calm when this car is being treated this way. Health East paramedics have now arrived in advanced life support ambulance, and they will be again treating predominantly the more seriously injured patients.
Yep, I'm conscious. How you doing? Yep. Can you move your feet? No? How about your hands? You can touching in here? Alright, what's your name? Reed. Who's beside you?
Jack.
Where are you hurt, Nick?
My Jack. My legs and my arm.
Legs and arms. Can you move your toes for me? Sir, I'm gonna have you step out. Maybe come over this way with me. How much have you had to drink tonight, sir?
I had a few drinks.
A few drinks? Okay. Here's what I'm gonna have you do for me. I'm gonna run you through a few exercises to find out your level of intoxication, okay?
All right.
Here's what I'm gonna have you do first. I'm gonna have you put your feet together. I want your hands down at your side. Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have anything wrong with your eyes at all?
No.
Okay. Do you have any problems with seeing the tip of my pen here? Right where my finger is. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you follow it using your eyes only and not your head. I want you to keep your head still for me. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay.
What's your first name? Jill, I'm a paramedic. We're still taking the doors apart, okay? Okay.
In
Keep your head still
Minnesota,
for me. Keep following it.
it's often the responsibility of the Minnesota State Patrol on an accident that involves fatalities to do the scene reconstruction and the accident reconstruction. State Patrol has now arrived on scene, and because of those facts, we'll start a scene investigation.
Now here's what I'm going to have you do for me. Do you have any problems with your hips, legs, or anything that would prevent you from standing on one leg?
No.
Okay, here's what I'm going to have you do for me. I want you to stay as you are. When I tell you to, I want you to lift the foot of your choice approximately 6 inches off the ground like so. I want you to point your toe, look down at your foot, and I want you to count 1,001, 1,002, 1,003 in that manner until I tell you to stop. If at any time you put your foot down while you're counting, I want you to pick it back up and continue where you left off. Do you understand?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
The driver that
1,001,
created this tragedy
1,002,
is being evaluated by a trained DWI evaluation expert.
1,002,
Has failed the
1,003,
field sobriety test. He will be arrested, treated for any
1,001,
injuries,
1,002.
Okay, I'm
and
just
enter
going
the
to have you
legal
stop,
system.
okay? Okay, here's what I'm going to have you do now. I'm going to have you take your right foot. I'm going to have you take your left foot. I want you to plant it down. I'm going to have you put your right foot in front of it. Go ahead and do that. Okay, I want you to stay in like that. I want you to put your hands down at your side. Here's what I'm going to have you do. When I tell you to, I'm going to demonstrate it for you first. When I tell you to, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you take 9 steps down on an imaginary line. I'm going to have you count 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 9. Once you get up to 9, I want you to take a series of several small steps. I want you to turn and pivot, and I want you to come back on the same line that you came down on, all the way up to 9 again, okay?
All right.
While you're doing this, I want you to look at your feet. I want you to count out loud, keep your hands down at your side, and I want you to continue until you've completed the exercise. Do you understand?
Yep.
Go ahead.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay. Check on my other. All right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Wife.
6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you stand over here by the squad. I want you to just lean against it and rest for a second, okay? Just, no, go ahead. You can face me. I want you to just lean against it and rest for a second, okay?
Randy. Yeah. Jill.
Okay, this is called a preliminary breath test, and what it's going to do is it's going to confirm all the observations that I made while you were performing those exercises. Basically, how it works is it's a straw. It's basically like a straw you'd get at McDonald's. There's nothing obstructing it. What I'm going to have you do is when I tell you to, I'm going to have you take a deep breath. I'm going to have you seal your lips around it, and I'm going to have you blow. And I'm going to have you, it's a long, sturdy breath. I'm going to have you keep blowing until I tell you to stop. Do you understand?
13
Okay.
and Jaden's 10.
Yeah, that's it. Let's go back and sit down.
Have you take a deep breath for me? And blow. Blow, 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 blow. Keep going, 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 keep going. Good. Have you opened up your mouth for me? Lift up your tongue. Lift up your tongue. Good. Okay.
My sister's.
I'm going to have you turn around for me and put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest for DWI.
Our driver has failed the field sobriety test, is being arrested. Again, will enter the legal system where it's almost assured he will lose driving privileges, face costly fines, and possibly jail time.
Have you sit back here again?
I might add at this time, anyone that's provided alcohol to this individual could also face serious consequences, up to a felony conviction.
Applicant.
By Minnesota law, I'm required to read the implied consent motor vehicle advisory to you, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And then afterwards, you're going to be taken up to Regions Hospital, where we're going to need to get a blood sample from you to find out your level of intoxication, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. The case number is going to be 0700050107. Start time is going to be 9:20 hours. Location red is the South St. Paul High School. I believe you have been driving, operating, or controlling a motor vehicle in violation of Minnesota's DWI laws, and you have been placed under arrest for this offense. Or you have been involved in a motor vehicle accident resulting in property damage, personal injury, or death. Minnesota law requires you to take a test to determine if you are under the influence of alcohol. If you are under the influence of hazardous or controlled substances, or to determine the presence of controlled substance or its metabolite listed in Schedule 1 or 2 or other marijuana or tetrahydrocannabinols. Refusal to take a test is a crime. Because I also have probable cause to believe you have violated a criminal vehicular homicide or injury laws, a test will be taken with or without your consent. Before making your decision about testing, you have the right to consult with an attorney. If you wish to do so, a telephone and directory will be made available to you. If you're unable to contact an attorney, you must make your decision on your own. You must make your decision within a reasonable period of time. If the test is unreasonably delayed, or if you refuse to make a decision, you will be considered to have refused the test. Do you understand what I've just explained?
Yes.
Okay. Do you wish to consult with an attorney?
Yes.
Yes?
No.
No? Okay. Will you take, okay. You'll be taken down to Regions Hospital, like I said, at this point, and we're gonna get a blood sample, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have you waiting here in the meantime, okay?
Stand my face and have.
Do you guys need any more assistance, or? Are you guys good? Okay.
The lives of the people involved in this accident will never be the same. The sights and sounds that you are witnessing and they're hearing will likely haunt them the rest of their life.
Right here. I'm right here. I don't know.
Officer Waters, have you identified most of the people in the vehicles or anything?
Yes, I got the ones in the ambulances. I'm gonna go check the one in the Southeast ambulance right now.
Okay, are there any witnesses?
What's that?
Any witnesses?
Not yet. No one's come up to me yet.
Okay. Are you gonna stay on scene right now?
Yes, I'll stay on scene.
Okay, the driver is under arrest for DWI. I'm gonna take him down to I'm gonna run him down to Regions and get a blood sample, okay? Okay. Are you guys are okay then?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna walk over by Jade. Can you take me
What's it?
by Jade and
Uh-huh.
can you walk through?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
He just wants to say goodbye. Hey, Shark. Todd has got a list of some of these kids' family members. If would you mind contacting some of them? Okay, he'll get you the list and stuff if you want to continue to talk to him a little bit. Other than that, the scene is going to be turned over to Todd right now. I've got the driver for DWI, so I'm going to be leaving with him. Okay?
As the firefighters are extricating the final victim, other victims are being worked on in the ambulances. IVs are being started and are receiving medical treatment,
You all right?
preparing them for en route to the hospital and likely surgery.
How about his legs?
What do you got?
Basically, right now we've got a drunk driver. I'm taking him down to Regions to get a blood sample. I've already conducted field sobriety. My partner Todd, he's got a list of witnesses and knows a little bit more about what happened in the accident. But we've got 2 fatalities as of right now, and I believe they've extricated everyone else. So perfect. Yep. Thank you very much.
I'll go there. I don't know. I go in the ambulance?
Let's check with the officer.
As the ambulances prepare to leave, the dead will be treated with respect and covered, and they remain in place until the state patrol concludes their investigation, and then they'll be turned over to the Dakota County Coroner's Office.
Sir, we're gonna have you have a seat right over there. Everybody buckle in. You're buckled in. We're gonna have you slide to here.
Here?
Yep.
Okay.
No. Take this one from earlier. What's that?
Randy, would you like me to come with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
It's imperative these patients get to the hospital as quickly as possible, and so the ambulances are now en route to likely regions. They'll need a trauma center for further evaluation, possibly surgery.
Throw him, Bill.
Last year on prom night, 3 teens were killed in Foston, Minnesota. And 1/3 of all traffic fatalities among 15 to 19-year-olds are caused by drinking and driving. That's how serious the problem has become. Every emergency worker here is for real. and we deal with these kinds of tragedies often. The toughest thing to deal with is they're completely avoidable, simply by making the right decisions. Not to drink and drive, or to allow a friend or anyone you know drink or drive. And these things can be avoided.
Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. Would you hold my hand if I saw you in heaven? Would you help me stand if I saw you in heaven? I'll find my way through night and day, 'cause I know I just can't stay here in heaven. Time can bring you down, time can bend your knee. Time can break your heart, have you begging please, begging beyond the door. There's peace, I'm sure, and I know there'll be no more tears in heaven. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. 'Cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven.
On behalf of all the emergency workers that were here today, we want to congratulate you seniors. Good job, great job. We want you to have fun this time of year. It's a great, great time in your life. And our hope is the sights and sounds that you've heard and seen will help you make the right decisions. Thank you.
I'd now like to present to you Mr. James Backstrom, Dakota County District Attorney.
Thank you. Good morning. What you've just seen, it's hard to watch this, even when it's just put on here like it is this morning. You just have to think about what it's like to see this in real life. People crying and dying on our streets. You know, it's a terrible situation that happens far too often in this great country of ours. There are 45 persons who die every day in America as the result of an alcohol-related car crash. Think about that. That's one death every 30 minutes, 315 deaths every week, over 17,000 people who are killed on the roads of this country every year. That's 5 times the number of persons who were killed in the 9/11 terrorist attacks in New York City. In fact, there's more people who have died as a result of alcohol-related car crashes in our great country than in all the wars that our nation has ever fought in. The simple reality of the fact is that drunk driving kills and cripples more persons than any other crime in America, and it is the most preventable crime there is, because you have to make a conscious decision to drink alcohol and get behind the wheel of a car. And we need you to make good decisions and not do that. And it's the deaths just are one part of it. There's over 600,000 persons every year who are crippled as a result of alcohol-related car crashes. And think of all of the families that are impacted by these terrible crimes. 3 out of every 10 Americans in our country will have someone in their family that's the victim of an alcohol-related car crash at some point in time in their life. And I know what that's like, because I'm one of those people. My mother was crippled, suffered permanent brain damage when she was hit head-on by a 15-year-old boy who'd been drinking and driving a car, his dad's Cadillac, out for a joyride at a high rate of speed on the wrong side of the road, hit my parents head-on, and forever changed the life of my family. That was a long time ago. It was the year after I graduated from high school. And I will never forget it. And my mother, and I've always considered myself one of the lucky ones because my mom survived. She had permanent brain damage, could never speak normally again, could never walk, could never use her right arm again. But she was there to grow up and see my grandkids. Too many of these tragic situations, that never happens. Families are simply torn apart and loved ones are killed or crippled. Please make good choices. We all want you to be safe, and I'm here today on behalf, by the way, of all of Dakota County law enforcement officials. The South St. Paul Police Department, Chief Mike Meserick, who's here today, Sheriff Don Goodmanson, who I work with in Hastings, and all of us that work in law enforcement in Dakota County. We want you to be safe, we want you to be responsible, and we want you to have fun at prom and graduation season and throughout the summer, but you don't have to use alcohol or drugs to have a good time. Please remember that. It's time to stop these tragedies, and we need your help in doing that. Please be responsible, make good choices, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Backstrom. Next, I'm going to introduce you to Colleen Youngquist. Colleen Youngquist is from Hastings, Minnesota, and represents Dakota County Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. Her story begins on Thanksgiving weekend in 1995, 11 and a half years ago, when her brother, John Murtaugh, was killed by a hit-and-run drunk driver on Dodd Road in Eagan. The case was a very high profile as the suspect left the scene of the crash, arrested 5 days later, and charged with leaving the scene of a fatal accident. He pleaded not guilty, and the case went to trial. The trial became high profile in Minnesota and lasted for almost a year. The driver was finally sentenced to leaving the scene of a fatal accident. He spent 4 months in jail. He lost his driver's license for 1 year and was supervised in the community for 10 years. In 1996, Colleen worked with the Dakota County Attorney's Office and testified before the Minnesota House, the Minnesota Senate, and the Minnesota Sentencing Guideline Commission to change the law. In August 1996, the Murtaugh bill became law. It was part of the 1996 Omnibus Crime Bill. Since that time, anyone that leaves the scene of a fatal accident that they caused, where there was a death or great bodily injury, will automatically assumed to be under the influence of alcohol or some other illegal substance and can be charged with vehicular homicide, a prison term up to 7 years. Ms. Youngquist.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. As your principal said, my story begins Thanksgiving weekend in 1995. My family had been apart on Thanksgiving Day. My parents had been out of town, so we gathered together on that Sunday. Little did I know that would be the last time I would really be able to talk to my brother. I was the one probably about 6:30 that night that said, you know, I gotta go. I had 3 kids. They were 8, 9, and 15. We've got to go home. One needs to do homework. I had 2 that had to get into the bathtub. We just had things to do to get ready for the next work week and school week. So we left. My other 2 siblings followed suit. John and his wife were newly married. They had no children, and they made the decision to go home where they lived in Eagan. They made the decision to go home and take a walk. Now, to paint the picture for you, it was a beautiful night in Minnesota if you like winter. It was about 30 degrees. We had gotten about 6 inches of fresh fallen snow that day, so it was beautiful out. There was a huge moon in the sky. The stars were out. The wind was calm. It had stopped snowing about an hour and a half to 2 hours earlier, so it was just beautiful. John and Jamie drove home to Eagan. They lived near the intersection of Cliff and Dodd in a little housing development right off of Highway 3. Jamie remembers that her husband sat down in the front step when they got home. He had brand new tennis shoes. They joked about it because he had to relace his tennis shoes because you know how you get new shoes and the laces are too long? Well, he had to relace his shoes and then double knot them because the laces were so long, and Jamie teased him about that. I want you to remember his laces were double knotted. They were walking on Dodd Road. At that time, Dodd Road was a dirt road, that section of Dodd. It would be just down from the intersection of Cliff, where if you are familiar with the area, there's a vegetable stand right on the corner in the summer. They were down just from there. There was a posted sign for a deaf child in the neighborhood, and I believe the speed limit was 20 miles an hour in that just small stretch of the roadway. John and Jamie were walking hand in hand. They had their dog Bo with them. They were real conscious. Jamie remembers being real conscious of what was around her because of the dog. Jamie did not realize what had happened until she realized simultaneously that her hand was empty as the same time she saw John's body fly through the air. He flew about 35 feet ahead of them and landed in a ditch. The tennis shoes that were laced and tied and double knotted were an additional 45 feet beyond his body. The impact was that strong. Jamie took her coat off, ran to him, took her coat off, and covered him, held his hand. The dog laid down next to him, kept him warm. And that was kind of pre-cell phone days. They didn't have a phone on them. Not everybody carried it. You know, it was kind of it was a luxury to have a cell phone back then. Jamie ran to a nearby farmhouse. We always thought it would have been nice for the driver to have made that call so Jamie could have stayed with her husband, but he was gone. Jamie ran to the nearby farmhouse, called for help. Paramedics, ambulance was there within minutes. He was transported to St. Paul Ramsey Medical Center, which is now Regions Hospital. About that time, I was at home. I had decided to get into the shower. I was, in the bathroom, and my husband poked his head around the corner, opened the door and poked his head in and said, "Colleen, you need to hurry up. We've just gotten a phone call from your dad, and John has been hit by a car, and we need to take your mom and dad up to the hospital." And I said, "Well, what's wrong?" He said, "I don't know. Your dad mentioned something about something's wrong with his leg. I don't really know, but I don't think it's anything too serious." And at the time I said, "Well, why don't you just go pick my mom and dad up? I'll stay here with the kids. I'll make sure Jason gets going on his homework, and we'll just do that." And he said, No, I really think you need to come." He knew more than he was telling me at the time. I remember driving up Highway 52, and it was such a bright night that we could have shut our headlights off and been able to stay on the roadway. We walked into the hospital. If anybody here has ever been called to a tragedy, you know what I'm talking about. We walked into the hospital, and it was like everybody was in slow motion. You could have heard a pin drop. We walked in, and it was like they looked at us and said, "Oh, they're here." They ushered us off into this little room. By that time, my other two siblings and their spouses, and my sister-in-law, Jamie, and her family were all there. We were the last ones to arrive. About 3 doctors walked in, and they sat down, and they said, "Things aren't looking real good. We want you to know that we will do everything in our power to save your brother, your son, your husband, but we can't promise you anything." He was 32 years old. I know that's a bit older than most of you, but it's young. 32 years old. They basically said that he had numerous injuries that they weren't even bothering to diagnose because they were so concerned about a few injuries. He had neck problems, a broken back. He had a broken neck, a broken back. He had something wrong with his kidneys. That's probably right where the truck impacted him, right in the small of his back. He had nothing left to his left leg. It basically exploded upon impact. There was nothing left but the fibers to his jeans. He also had 2 blood clots. One blood clot came from the top right-hand side of his head, came down and pushed over to the left. The other blood clot came directly from the top, came down and literally crushed his brainstem. That's the blood clot that killed him. He was in surgery within minutes of getting to the hospital. Surgery lasted about 7 hours. It was a really long night. We spent the next 5 days at his bedside. He was on total life support. Doctors told us that he was in the most primitive stage of a coma that you can be in and still be alive. They told us that he didn't know that we were there. I don't know if that's right or not. We did everything in our power to bring him out of that coma. We were in his room for 5 days, 5 nights. Somebody was always there. I remember playing music that he would like. He loved Van Morrison. We played Brown Eyed Girl all day and all night, hoping that it would just bring him out of this. We talked about funny stories from growing up. We talked about things that were important to him. My mom would talk to him as her baby. Nothing worked. The crash again was on Sunday night. On Wednesday of that week, it was, if things could have gotten any worse, we just couldn't imagine anything could be any worse. But my sister-in-law, John's wife, Jamie, was not feeling well, and she had a miscarriage that night. Now, I know, and you know, that there are women every day that have miscarriages, but you know what we thought. We thought that she just couldn't handle the stress of this whole thing, and that's what's causing this next tragedy. We were devastated. It was a baby that we were looking forward to, a cousin for our children, a niece or nephew, another grandchild for my parents. We were devastated. We couldn't imagine what else could happen. Also that day, my brother had a group of high school friends, a very tight-knit group of friends. There were 13 of them. They came to the hospital and they said, you know, we need to help you figure this out. It's not normal for people to just let someone die in a ditch. That's not the way life is supposed to be. He drove off and we need to help you find them. The Eagan Police Department had details from the scene. They had found, that night, they had washed away the snow and they had found the trim around the headlight of that truck. Now, I don't know a lot about vehicles. You guys probably know a whole lot more than me. But they were able to say that it was either an 83 or 84 dark brown or black pickup, a GMC. So my brother's friends took that information, they compiled a flyer, and they basically went on a door-knocking campaign in the neighborhood. The third door they knocked on, a woman answered the door and said, you know, there is a pickup truck that matches that description that usually lives at the house across the street from me, next door to where my brother lives. So they took that as a huge tip and figured out who the truck was registered to, found out where he worked, were doing their investigation. That was on Wednesday, all of that happened. On Thursday, the doctors pulled the family together again and said, you know, we have to make some decisions. Because John was so healthy and so active and so fit, the injuries that are causing, the injuries that were life-threatening are starting to heal. But the injury to the brain will never be better. They told us that he would never know his surroundings. He would never know if we came to visit him, that he could die of old age in a nursing home. He could be 85 years old and in a coma before he died. He would never, ever know where he was. Now, as a family member, I hope that nobody ever has to make that decision to pull the plug. There's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than being told by a doctor that you have to make the decision to pull that plug. I hope none of you are ever in that position. We felt very lucky. My brother made the decision for himself. Within 2 weeks before the crash. My brother was not, John wasn't a touchy-feely kind of guy. He talked about what the Vikings did. He loved the North Stars. He talked about the latest fishing report and whether or not, he got a buck in his last hunting trip. He didn't talk about touchy-feely things, but we felt very blessed because in 2 weeks prior to the crash, he told 3 different people that he'd never want to be kept alive on life support. He told my husband on a little trip they went to chop some wood for our fireplaces. He told my other brother Tom on a hunting trip, and he told his wife that very night on the walk that he just really felt really strongly that he would want to die a dignified death and he would never, ever want to be kept alive on life support. So we honored that. We gave doctors permission to pull the plug. We brought nieces and nephews into the hospital that morning and gave everybody time to say goodbye. And that morning, the doctors pulled the plug about 10 o'clock. It took all day. I could never have prepared myself for that day. A couple of times we looked at each other and said, "Do you think he's gone?" And then all of a sudden he would take a big gulp of air and we'd say, "Well, nope, he's not." But when it finally happened, it was about 7:20 that night. When it finally happened, we knew. There was a peace or a calm that came over his body, and we could tell immediately. John passed away about 1 hour before the man who was driving the truck was arrested. Now, police on Friday went to that man's place of employment. He was working. The truck that he was driving was parked in the parking lot at that place of employment. It was a printing company on Shepherd Road in St. Paul. The truck was parked. It had fresh bodywork. And the police, before they went in, did a thorough search of the parking lot. They found the damaged pieces to the truck in the dumpster. Now, what happened is this guy knew a friend who knew a friend who knew an auto body repairman, and the auto body repairman fixed the truck in the middle of the night. Now, in Minnesota, we need an accident report to repair a vehicle. It's illegal to repair a vehicle without an accident report. This guy, the auto body repairman, got off the hook by agreeing to testify. Also, I should tell you, you're probably wondering, this guy left the scene. How did we know that he was drunk? There were several bar patrons. He was drinking at the VFW in Rosemont that day. It was a Viking Sunday. People told us that he had gotten to the VFW for the start of the football game. It started at 11 o'clock. He had drank all day. The crash was about 7 o'clock, 7:10 that night. We were told that people also took Dodd Road home versus the more well-traveled Highway 3 because they were less likely to get stopped on Dodd Road versus the highway. So he took Dodd Road home, and it changed our lives. That was kind of just the beginning of the story. Mr. Robertson was arrested that night. He was brought to the Dakota County Jail in Hastings. He was charged with the crime. He had his first appearance, his omnibus hearing that morning on Monday morning. He spent the weekend in jail. Monday morning was the first appearance. And so family went to the jail to witness that, and then we went home and changed clothes to go to the visitation. Oh, it was very high profile, and there were a lot of people at that visitation. And I remember seeing lines and lines and lines of people. That, as I said, that was just the beginning of the story. We spent the next year in and out of court. Mr. Robertson pled not guilty. He claimed that he thought he hit a deer. However, I've never really understood claiming that you hit a deer when you felt the need to repair your vehicle in the middle of the night. That doesn't make sense to me. As I said, we spent the next year in and out of court. The crash was on the 26th of November, 1995, and Mr. Robertson wasn't sentenced until late October of 1996. He was sentenced to leaving the scene of a fatal accident. He spent about 4 months in jail with work release, so he got out of jail to go to work, which was really nice. He went there to sleep. He went to jail to sleep, I should say. We had a really busy year that year. We had a couple of other family deaths, grandparents that died, and I tell you, after you've been to a really, really, really sad funeral, none of them are really easy, and it's just hard to go to anybody's funeral. My brother, I think I would be remiss to not mention that my brother was not the only victim. My sister-in-law had only been married for 14 months. She lost the only person that she had any solid plans with for the rest of her life. She was 27 years old, and her life, everything changed. The rug was pulled right out from under her. Her life changed on a dime. My parents lost the baby of their family. If anybody knows anybody that's lost a child, there is no greater loss on this earth. I witnessed my parents grieving, and I'm standing here today to tell you that no one should ever, ever go through that. My other two siblings and I agreed that we lost a piece of our history that day. Your siblings know things about you that nobody else knows. We all agreed, the three of us agreed, that John knew things about us that even the other two didn't know. You know things about your siblings that nobody else knows. My children and my nieces and nephews were absolutely devastated. John was the really fun uncle. He was the uncle that didn't have the responsibilities that his parents had. He would call on a Friday morning or Friday night and say, you know, I'm on my way to the Dairy Queen, or I'm going to go to the Twins game. Ask your mom if you can go with. I'll be there in 10 minutes. We're going to go to the beach in Prescott. Ask your mom if you can go with, and I'll be there in 10 minutes. He was the uncle that really, really did all the fun things. My oldest child was 15 at the time. Jason did not have a brother. John was the next thing to a brother to Jason. Jason was devastated. He really did not want to go on with life. He wanted to be where John was. And, you know, I don't like to talk about this, but he contemplated suicide. He was so sad, losing someone that was so important to him. My children, my nieces and nephews, I could never, ever have prepared them for something like that. All the adults in their life that meant anything to them had fallen apart. They were really, really in a tough place. They didn't have anybody that they could really count on that meant anything before, because all of those adults had absolutely fallen apart. I was not the same person. My parents were not the same people. My other siblings were not the same people. Nobody grieves the same way. One person is up, the other person is down. It's just a roller coaster. And, you know, the other thing about grief that I should mention is that there was so much going on for almost a year. Families, now I don't mean to minimize any other form of death. I know people die from all kinds, you know, there's a lot of cancer deaths, and it's all very sad. It's still a void in your life. However, when you are mixed up with the criminal justice system and all this stuff is going on, the family doesn't really get down to the business of grieving until that's all over. There was no way we could. Every time we turned around, somehow I ended up being the family spokesperson. Every time we turned around, there was another court hearing, and I'd get home from work or I'd get home from the government center, and I'd have a phone call from KARE 11 or the Hastings radio station, just wondering how I felt about today's, turn of events. It was a horrible year. Now we go on. It never gets better. You go on, you learn to deal with your loss, but it really doesn't get better. As I'm talking about victims, I think that it's really important to mention one other victim. Now, I know that Mr. Robertson didn't wake up that morning and intend to kill somebody. I know that he probably didn't want to do what he did, but I also know that he made the conscious decision to drive after he had been drinking all day. He was close enough, really, he could have walked home. We were told that at that time in Eagan there was a taxi cab service. He could have called a taxi. He had a bar full of friends. Someone in that bar could have said, "Hey, Scott, wait a minute, maybe I should give you a ride home." Or someone could have said, "Hey, you really are in no shape." The investigators at the scene told us that they were able to tell, now I don't know how they can do this, but they were able to tell that he was probably going about 65 to 70 miles an hour when he came into contact with my brother. That's really fast on a dirt road with a posted speed sign of 20 or 25, whatever it was, a deaf child in the neighborhood, so there was a reflective sign there. He probably shouldn't have been driving that night. We know he shouldn't have been. So I'm here today. I know sometimes, as your principal mentioned, I represent Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and I know that MADD gets a bad rap sometimes. And I know that the perception of Mothers Against Drunk Drivers is that we get up on our soapbox and jump up and down and scream and yell and curse and just ream you out. That's not what I'm here about today. I'm only here to share our story, to ask you to help me change the social acceptance of drinking and driving, to ask you to help me change the attitude in our community. If you're in the position, make the right decision. If you see someone else making that wrong decision, help them make the right decision. I'm here today just in hope that I know I won't touch all of you, but I hope I touch a good share of you. I'm here today to ask you to make the right decision, to help others make the right decision, and help me change that social acceptance that drinking and driving go hand in hand. Thank you for having me. You were a great audience. I'm going to go home tonight and say a prayer that all of you heard what I said, that you were impacted by what you saw here today, and that prom is fabulous. Thank you.
In closing, I'd just like to take this time to thank all the people involved in putting this production on. There are far too many for me to mention them all, but I want to thank the work with the city helping us, the Dakota County, and everybody else so that we were able to put this particular event on for you. I would also like to thank Mr. Ekman, Officer Gravem, and the SAD team for doing all the organizing and making sure that we had this event taking place today. And a real special thank you to the Bjorklund family. Even though this is acting, to put Mr. and Mrs. Bjorklund in the position to where their children are in a position to where they're hurt, and even to simulate a death of that nature has to be tremendously trying on you. And if you get a chance today when you see them, please thank them for their involvement in this. A reminder to all the juniors and seniors, the mock trial will be tomorrow during 5th hour. You will be going to your 5th hour, 5th period class, and you will be released by the bell or by the office as you were today. Finally, in closing, as your high school principal, prom weekend is the longest weekend of the year for me. Until Monday comes, and I know that all of my students are safe and back in school, I will worry. Please, make your prom the safest and best ever. Make good choices. Please return to your 3rd hour class.